Well, good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. It is 6:30 p.m. This is the time and place for the committee meeting for April for the Northern Lebanon School District Board of Directors. I do call this meeting to order. Before we get started, I would like to announce publicly that the board met in executive session immediately prior to this committee meeting to discuss two issues. One, matters of legal concern regarding student discipline, and secondly, a confidential personnel matter. With that said, the first item on the agenda this evening is public comment. According to Board Policy 903, all individuals wishing to participate in an open board meeting were asked to register their intent with the board secretary by 3 p.m. today. I understand that we do have one item for public comment this morning. Participants will be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and group affiliation if applicable. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 4 minutes duration. I will keep the time and I will let you know when 30 seconds remains of your time. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer and no participant may address or question school directors individually. Christina Ingram, is that correct? Okay, thank you. I will begin your time when you start your comments. Thank you. Turn the green light on.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. My name is Christina Ingram. I come from many generations of NL Vikings. I also graduated from here. I am here to discuss my thoughts on the board's decision to increase the real estate taxes to the maximum PA allows. I'm not opposed to any tax increase, but I think it's time to stop asking taxpayers to pay for excessive increases driven by poor financial management and spending choices. I believe that many of the residents would not be as angry with your decision if a more reasonable amount was selected or if the justification were not for the never-ending renovations. I think it's time for the board members to ask more financial questions, ask for more documentation, and discuss the necessity of items or cost-effective alternatives. The board needs to hold people accountable when the questions you ask about financial concerns go unanswered. It shouldn't take a resident like Molly Lum to go to the township to find those answers and push for those steps to be completed. I agree with Molly's assessment of the list of wants and needs. Why are we going off old estimates? Why are we choosing the most expensive options? Why are we starting more projects when others haven't been completed? We, the residents, have our own expenses and budgets and our own wants and needs, which often have to wait until we can afford them. I suggest that the board start making better financial decisions instead of putting out their hands to the district taxpayers when you realize that the district may go broke by 2034. Why not stop the wasteful spending? You were elected to vote and be the voice of all of us, not just your own. I have heard from many residents and parents who express that they are pulling their kids into cyber school due to bullying issues and/or lack of accountability on the administration's part. Maybe it's time to focus on why the kids and teachers are leaving. I took the time to compile comparisons of the budget revenue summary and budget revenue expenses for NL and a local school district. My goal was not to suggest that we spend less than the other school. The goal was instead to identify other potential revenue opportunities or wasteful spending. As requested, I will be doing the same with other schools. I also took a moment to review the March budget revenue summary in more detail. I noticed several anomalies. The budget column uses parentheses to denote both surplus on line 7531 and deficit on line 6151, which is inconsistent reporting and can be used to obscure the actual balances. There's a budget variance on two lines, 6112 and 6451. These suggest significant revenue streams were either completely omitted from the initial budget or were miscategorized during the receive phase. Two lines were identified where money was budgeted, 0 money was received, but the year-to-date percentage was 100. These lines can be shared if requested. There are several lines with budgeted amount of money was received, but 0% year-to-date. Based on my calculations, line 7632 should be over 184%. Line 7810 should be over 67%. There was one line with the budgeted amount. The received money was well over the budgeted amount, but only shows 100%. That line 7531 should be over 367%. I noticed 5 lines were identified with a zero budget amount, money was received, but the year-to-date percentages were inaccurately identified with 100%. Typical accounting software marks these as 0 or NA. Reporting them with 100% with a zero budget suggests a forced percentage in the reporting template. 9 lines had zero money budgeted, zero money received, and the year-to-date percentages were also inaccurately identified with 100%.
30 seconds.
How can you make sound financial decisions if the reports are presented with percentages or numbers that lack mathematical logic? I hope you consider more in-depth reviews of the financial documents instead of pushing the revenue loss onto the residents. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you for the public comment. Next item on the agenda is presentations. Dr. Messinger.
Let me sit. Stand. I'll try to read and disseminate myself. Hey, does it work? This is dangerous now.
I'm gonna say.
If he gives me chalk, we're really in trouble.
Give 4 minutes.
That's all right.
Right.
All right. Due to, and I hope the guys, don't worry about it. It's fine. I got it. I hope that the board has enjoyed this year the increased amount of people that we've had come and speak. You've noticed, I think, probably each month we've either had an elementary representative or a secondary representative. Tonight, after I'm done, well, Mrs. Bruce is going to talk a little bit, and then Mr. Bruce as well. So usually I do this a little bit sooner, but because of all the presentations we've had, it's no longer mid-year. But I do want to talk a little bit about where we're going with some things and how things have been going with some of the goals for this year. If you go to the next slide, Tyler. Just a reminder, there were 4 goals that we had talked about for this year. These are probably going to be continued for several years, and I'll explain why as we go through it. Goal number 5 from our long-range plan, using a standards-aligned K-12 curriculum and rigorous assessments and data. So you've heard a lot about data. You've heard a lot about curriculum this year. You've heard a lot about assessments. Goal number 6, monitoring the effective instructional strategies. And you've seen in especially our elementary presentation where they're using the data to determine how the instructional strategies that we're using is being received by students and therefore how they're performing against the eligible content for their grade level. Goal number 7, improvement for instructional leaders. Beginning last summer, we sent a lot of our administrators to trainings, and we continue to do so. You heard Dr. McInerney talk about AI and how we can use that. And we're starting to get them out to as many trainings as possible so that we can bring back some ideas from other places and then implement them here. You've heard us over the course of the year talk about John Almarode. We went and heard him speak. And we are really, really on board with what he's trying to do in terms of bringing clarity for our students and our teachers. And that's going to be a big thing. Go back one more, Tyler. The other thing, goal number 8, just want to focus on that. It actually came out of one of my standards, and it was communication. And in a few minutes, I'm going to have Mrs. Bruce do a little presentation on where we are headed with communication. Communication that not only helps us communicate internally, but is also going to help us reach outside of the school district. I know one of the problems that we had was incoming kindergartners. If they don't have siblings in the district, how in the world do we get that information to them if they're not asking questions? We don't have the census information to necessarily send them information when their child is 4 years old. So we've really had struggles trying to get them the information that they need to have. We think we have opportunities now that we're going to be able to solve some of those problems. So those were the goals. Go ahead, Tyler. I do want to revisit this. I've talked about it a little bit. And the reason why I want to revisit it is because it's really the heart of what we're trying to do. I had presented last year a roadmap to success. That roadmap starts with eligible content, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But we get into the curriculum cycle very, very fast. And that was something that we had brought back after years of an absence. And if you think about that cycle, and we went over it a while ago, but if you think about that cycle, it starts with the writing of the curriculum. But there's way more to that. And if you look at year 2, 3, and 4, now we're talking about, are our assessments aligned? So we need to be able to measure what we're teaching, whether or not, and that's by making sure the assessments are actually addressing what we want our students to learn. Also, our lesson planning. I was taught when I first started teaching, you write a lesson plan, and everything you do in that lesson plan aligns to what you want the kids to learn. So I'll use coaching as an example. If I want my kids to learn how to hit a baseball, I am not going to put them at shortstop and hit them ground balls. We're actually going to hit. We might be hitting off a tee, we might be hitting off a soft toss, we might be throwing live pitching at them, but we're going to align the instruction to what we want them to learn. In so many cases, we have teachers that are engaging, really engaging. However, we're not always, I'm sorry, that was on a timer, but you have to keep going back for me. I talked too long. We have times where we get off track from what we really want students to learn. And that's where that clarity comes into play, where we want them understand what you're trying to get your students to learn and then align that lesson planning. And then once we get that lesson plan aligned, bringing in the instructional strategies, which is the last piece, how do we make it engaging for our kids? How do we get them up and moving? How do we get them hands-on things? How do we connect it to the things that they like to do? And then those pieces come along with it. Also part of Al Muraud's work. He works with a gentleman by the name of John Hattie, who did a mega study on what instructional strategies are effective. And that work is going to come into play here after we have the rest of that aligned. So you see another example of the curriculum writing. And once again, the concepts. What do we want them to learn? Why do we want them to learn it? And how will we know? And that's the assessment piece. How will they know if they learn it? Other things that we're working on this year. Okay, Tyler, next slide. That focus on eligible content. Now, I heard a teacher say to me, Gare, eligible content given from the state, that's what's on the assessments. We're teaching to the test. No, we're not. Teaching to the test to me is you put practice tests in front of them and you do them over and over and you talk about what they did right or what they did wrong. Teaching eligible content is teaching the specific things that the student is supposed to learn per the state. Okay, so ask me the next question. Gary, well, my subject doesn't have that. Great. Guess what? You do have standards. You get to decide. So our shop teacher gets to decide, and I use this example all the time because it's a great example, what 3 types of sanding he wants the kids to be able to master in his wood shop class. He decides that, and that's his eligible content because the state doesn't give us that. But when the state does give us that, we need to be focused on that. And we got a little bit of pushback from that, but we're trying to work through that, explain it, have an understanding of that is not teaching to the test for us. That is teaching what the state, they just happen to give us the details of what they want us to learn and understanding what that is and how it works, how it plays a role in the curriculum. Implementation of McGrath. I wanted to bring this up as we were talking about some of the challenges we've had recently with a few students. That documentation's been a lifesaver for us, a life changer for us. They've done a great job of implementing it. They've done a great job. If you read those reports, I've ever had an opportunity, things are well documented. Those were issues that we had in the past that I think that this implementation of McGrath first year has solved a lot of those problems and has really, really helped us in our decision making. The AI professional development, which we had a presentation about, the cell phone policy, which we also had a presentation about. We're using a new data warehouse, which you saw an example of. In English, we're writing more. Unfortunately, Director Klein's still typing. However, we'll work on the handwriting piece of it. But we're writing more TDA, text-dependent analysis. That's when you read something and you're responding with some sort of critical comprehension skill where you're trying to make sure that you understand what you read and can and talk about it and support your answer as you talk about it. Parent Square training, which Mrs. Bruce is going to talk about in a little bit, and changes to hiring practice, which Mrs. Bruce did a presentation on a couple of weeks ago. So those have been things that we have tackled this year and made a lot of progress on. Next slide, please. Next things, we're going to pound and pound and pound for as long as I'm here. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and continue to work on that cycle. As each teacher's department works through their curriculum, they're all at a different stage. So really, till we get through, everybody gets through being able to do each of these items one time, it'll take 5 years to go through that cycle. And so everyone's in a little bit different place, but we're going to continue to emphasize that. I just talked with Dr. Reese not too long ago. We want to put in exemplars so that teachers can see, okay, here's what a lesson plan that's aligned to eligible content or our curriculum looks like. Again, using Almarod's concepts, what do I want my students to learn? So we're going to put some of those things into that curriculum cycle document that our teachers use. State has approved, not approved, but required, mandated cursive handwriting. So we're going to get back to the students being able to actually write their names in cursive, hopefully, amongst other things. We're looking at second or third grade to really start with that. And then, and we'll probably use a resource. You remember the old books where you're tracing the lines? I don't know if you ever had the red, yellow, and green lines, the stop, you know, the fancy stuff that we used to have as kids. And then in 7th and 8th grade, we think we have a place for this for our middle school kids. And that's keyboarding. So you're going to see a little bit of that, hopefully get our kids to type. I was just joking with Director Klein, if we could set our phones up to the computers and just let them type with their thumbs, we would be okay. But maybe actually we'll teach them a little bit of keyboarding. And then communication, which was something that the board gave me quite a bit of feedback from last year. We've been doing a lot of work with that. You're going to hear a lot about Parent Square over the next several months. And what I did was really, Kirk and Mrs. Bruce, they really did put a ton of work into looking at products this year, trying to solve some problems. And I'm going to let Mrs. Bruce come up here and talk a little bit about where we are with that and the next steps with that. And then that'll be the end of my report for the night. So Mrs. Bruce, you want this? You want
Stand at the podium. Good evening, everybody. Dr. Meschner stole a little bit of my thunder with Parent Square, but I will forgive him for that. Okay. So as he said, over the last 6 months, we have done a lot of listening to people. We've had a lot of conversations with parents, with you all as board directors, community members, and beyond about what that ideal communication looks like. And I will tell you that when we started compiling information, as varied as student needs are, K to 12 across the spectrum, that's kind of the opinion of everybody so far. What we found in the community is that everybody has a different version of what ideal communication looks like. So for us, trying to figure out how to then take all of these different pieces together and find something is what we've been looking at. Tyler? So just so you can see, and I'm happy to share this with you later so I don't have to read every single one of these, all I did was pull out some comments that parents have shared with us as we have been having these conversations, right? So some people, as you can see here, really want information streamlined. They're busy, they might be working 2 different jobs. They need quick information. They don't want things to get lost. Some people don't want any more different apps. They might have 3 kids in the district. That means they have 3 different apps. And then if their kids play sports, for those of us who are sports parents, you might have different apps for that. And it gets to be too much on their phone. Some people have shared with us that they actually don't like email. They prefer the apps because their email, they've signed up for too many coupons and their email gets clogged up and then they can't find their information, right? Some people have shared with us that, and I'll say that I fall into this boat, we're, victims of clutter and paper clutter. So they don't want any more paper because then they lose the paper, the dog eats it, the kids throw it out. So they need stuff electronically. So what we've been looking for is how can we serve as many different needs and people as humanly possible? So those are just a couple of the viewpoints. You can skip to the next one. And again, people are looking for something that can be grade specific. This might have been the previous slide, but I had a parent of a senior who said to me, as a senior, my child has very different needs than K to 11. There's a lot of things very specific for seniors. So when we get information about the entire secondary building, I don't have time to like pour through things looking for what my kid needs to know or when the graduation caps need to be ordered, things like that, right? Next. So what's next? We're really trying to consider how people currently get their information compared to how they would like to get their information. And we need to do this through the lens of serving the parents, the staff, the students, and the community. Yep. No, you're okay. So as we started looking at this, I want to give Kirk a shout out because he has been instrumental behind the scenes in doing so much research. And I will talk about some of the research he did later, but we started looking at goals. So if we are going to really tackle improving communication, what do those goals look like? Obviously, goal number one is to decrease family frustration, right? We want to make sure that if we're serving our parents, we do so to the best of our ability. We want to increase trust and transparency. We want to make sure if parents need information, they can find it quickly, and it matches, right? We want to support the greater community. We know that we have residents in the community that do not have kids here, but they want to know when the football game is canceled because of a tornado warning. They want to know when school's canceled because if they have to drive to a doctor's appointment, they don't want to be out on the roads behind a bus. We want to build those parent-teacher relationships, and we want to make that emergency information quickly accessible to everybody that needs it. Next. So we started actually this past September. In September, we pulled together a panel of teachers. We put out some feelers and we kind of offered this up to multiple people in the staff. And we've had many meetings with this panel of people to discuss their needs, their wants, and their current practices. So we had representation from elementary the whole way up through secondary. We had a coach, we had a reading specialist. We had multiple different levels of people. And again, I cannot say how much work Kirk did behind the scenes of this, but we were lucky to have good conversations starting in September. And so we landed on Parent Square. Parent Square is a universal communication platform. And after looking at many different options, this is what we have come to for multiple different reasons. But here are three that kind of helped solidify this as something that's going to serve as many needs as humanly possible. Number one, it is customizable with parent preferences, meaning if a parent signs up for Parent Square and you prefer to get things as a text, you can put your phone number in and you can get it as a text. If you would prefer to get it as an email, you can put your email and get the information as an email. If you would like to set it up so that you get real-time notifications, you can do that. If you have a job, let's say you're a nurse at a hospital and you can't be checking your phone all the time and you want to sign up for the Daily Digest, you get all of the information sent to you at 5 o'clock because you have customizable preferences within this platform. It has SMS functionality. This was something that was super important to us, especially as we were talking to parents. This does not require you to have a smartphone. One of the things that we did not want to do was pigeonhole anybody into needing to get information having a smartphone. You can have a flip phone, you can just have an email, it doesn't matter. Also, you can still receive the text and text back with a plain flip phone. It does not need to be a smartphone. The other reason that we went with this is because it has community features. What I mean by that is we can set up open groups, which I'm going to show you in a minute, for the people who do not have students here. So it would be information that we would like share on Facebook or information that we might share, that's very public information, something you'd say at a board meeting, not about like a single student, but that people could sign up to be part of those groups. Next. So since the end of February, we have had the same group of people being beta testers, kind of playing around with this information before it rolls out to the entire staff, because we know the change process is sometimes difficult, right? When you're trying to migrate an entire staff to use something that's a little bit different, it's going to take a little bit of time. So we wanted to get some people in the product quickly and have them start playing around with some features, trying out some things. So they have been doing that since the end of February. Next. So a couple of things that we've found out that might be of interest for you guys. Like I said, parents can use the app, but it is not required. You can still get things just directly to your email. You do not have to download anything if you do not wish to. Community members, like I said, can sign up for the open groups. Parents can receive and respond to text without a smartphone. There is group, class, and individual direct messaging available. So, for example, if your child, has a question about something and you want to message the teacher directly, you can do that and they can message you right back directly. So it has multiple different features if parents want to use them. This also has forms that can be sent in a secure fashion. I'm not sure any parents around here who have lost a field trip form like I have, guilty. But this way it's available through this platform. You can fill it out in a secure fashion, hit send, and it goes right back. And then teachers then have all of their forms at their fingertips. So if somebody has an emergency, they can be quickly contacted. Next. So this is an example, and I tell you what, because of the bar across the top, you can't see the very tip top of that, but that's okay. This is an example of what the community group sign up looks like. So people can just put their name in there, they can put their email, their mobile phone, and then right there are 3 groups that we have already set up. Obviously, the first one you see there is senior citizens, because we do host senior citizen events twice per year for anybody in the community that's a retired member. Viking Foundation is the second one, and then you can see down there on the bottom, the weather, closing, and delays is a third one. So in theory, you could be a community member and sign up for all 3. You could pick 2, you could pick 1, and then anytime somebody would post to that group or have a message or an alert, they would get a notification based upon their preference. Next. So how are we getting started? Like I said, in February, we did have a group of beta testers, and we've been using this platform with a small group of people, but starting in June, staff training begins. We are going to have 8 dates that people can pick from. So whatever your summer schedule looks like, you can get training over June. Admin and our secretary team are going to also get training in June. We're going to have 2 dedicated tables at our back to school nights for parents, so that if parents have a question, they want to stop by, they want to get information, we're going to have people there manning the tables to talk to the parents in real time. Show me your phone, let me ask what you need, things like that. So that's going to be happening obviously in August. This year, we're going to have a community calendar pickup day. So one of the pieces of information, this is like a side note, is that community members, we have the free calendars that the kids get to take home, right? Some of the community members didn't get a chance to get theirs, or they didn't know how or when to get their community calendars. And so we are going to have a day that they can come pick that up. And in the calendar, we're going to put information about Parent Square and how then they can sign up to get this information moving forward. We're also going to have information at the home football games in September about Parent Square, how to sign up, how to get that information. And again, I say, change is slow sometimes. So we know that this first year of implementation, there'll be some hiccups, but Kirk and his team have done a tremendous job. I can't say enough about how much research and work that they have done behind the scenes, looking at all the technical things. This will replace School Messenger. Right now, we use a product called School Messenger to get alerts out. So this will replace School Messenger. So thank you to those guys. Next. Parent Square, just again, this is not, to be clear, this is not for next school year, this little piece of information. This is looking further ahead. Parent Square also offers a web hosting, right? Right now, our website is hosted by Final Site. Whenever that contract expires, we will be heavily looking into what migration to Parent Square web hosting would look like, because the idea would be it would be an even more seamless way for our families to get information, so that if we posted on one thing, it would just automatically populate into there, and then all of the information is quick and easy and accessible and the same, which helps, right? So like I said, this tiny little piece is not for next school year. That is when our contract with Final Site would expire, which we believe is 27-28. Yes. So that would be for the following school year. And not to promise anything, but like I said, I just want to make sure that you guys knew about that piece as well. Next. And these are the teachers and the staff members who have been on our beta tester group. So I just want to give them a little public thank you for helping us out. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Bruce or me?
I have a question. Will the sports teams be included in that?
Yes, ma'am. Sports teams will be included. We already talked to the coaches, athletic director, athletic manager. This is one of the reasons we went with Parent Square, actually, because we can auto assign all of the sports groups in here. Yeah.
And is it just, do parents have to opt into it, you know, so like the district already has parent emails and currently school messenger is used, I don't have to opt into that, I just get the message. So,
Existing information have started, but then from there, they will be able to then edit preferences
Okay.
once they get more engaged in it.
So once you get your account, then if you don't like the way you're getting your information, you can go in and modify.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs.
Great.
Bruce. And then our last speaker tonight, Mr. Bruce, is going to talk a little bit about PBIS at the elementary school.
She turned it off when she walked away. Hi, guys. Just here to kind of go over some things that we are doing at the elementary school that started when we opened here, but have really taken off this year. And just wanted to kind of give you an update of where we're at. So PBIS, positive behavioral interventional supports or systems, depending on what you're reading. Well, let's start. What is it, right? So this idea actually started back in the 80s at the University of Oregon and some of the research that they were conducting on how to develop interventions for students who had challenging behaviors in a school setting. So started back in the 80s as their research kind of flowed. PBIS actually came about in the early 2000s, is where its framework kind of really came from. So about 26,000 schools in the United States are using this program right now. And what does it do? It teaches expected behaviors of our students in our school buildings. So one of the big changes there is it focuses more on the prevention of those concerning behaviors rather than the reaction or the afterthought of those behaviors already happening. So one of the big things that comes out of the PBIS is very similar to academics. It's a three-tiered system. So you have your first tier that all of your students kind of fall under, and about 80% of students kind of stop there. So the things that we're doing in tier one address the students in tier one's needs, and they kind of stop. And then it kind of breaks down just like in academics. So your second group there would be tier two, which is your targeted group. And that's about 5 to 15% of your student body there. What comes out of tier two is it just reflects off of students that are not successful with the things in tier one. So things that are put in place there a lot of times are smaller kind of things like behavior charts. In our younger grades, they look like sticker charts and those kinds of things to help support that behavior. And then you get to tier three. So tier three intensive there. So you're looking at about 1 to 5% of your kids in our buildings. That's it. So you're only looking at a few per grade level. And that really stems from the more severe behavioral needs. So a lot of times you'll have a functional behavioral analysis done on those kids. So an FBA to try and identify what is causing those kids to kind of have those behaviors of concern. So that's kind of the breakdown and the framework of what comes out of PBIS. So why did we decide on PBIS here at the elementary school? Reading down those things, the biggest one there is consistency is something that we talked about when opening this building. We took our 4 elementary schools, at a 5th when you bring down 6th grade from the middle school. And we just wanted to have some consistency among our student body and what those expectations are when they come into our buildings there. So that was really the groundwork of why we decided to go in the direction that we went there with that. So as you know, academic and social behaviors are related. So if they're socially not making good choices academically, it's going to be harder for them to learn like we want them to as well here at school. So timeline here at NLES, you look at the first couple of years that we were open, it was us just kind of doing some research on our own, presenting some things to our staff at our staff meetings, presenting things to our school counseling team, who has really taken this idea and run with it as well, and just getting them up to speed as quick as we could. The other big thing that we did since we've opened is set our behavior expectations. So we'll get to that a little bit more in a second, but currently right now, we're really focusing on our tier one. So that big chunk of our student body and how we're going through that. So ways that we're supporting our tier one is through behavior rotations, our school-wide Valiant Vikes program, our school store grand opening, and then we started our staff committee this year to help give us some insight on this. So we'll talk about those things a little bit more into detail, but where are we going? Next school year will really be to continue to improve that tier one that we are working on right now. And then moving beyond that is obviously to get that implementation of tier two and tier three out to our students. So tier one, it is our current focus here. And we started that with our school-wide expectations. So you can kind of see our school pledge there on the screen. It's really our what we kind of expect from all of our students from the time that they step onto our bus in the morning until the time they step off the bus in the afternoon there. So this is something our school pledge is on NLTV 23, our morning announcement program every day. Our kids kind of go through it and read that. So it's something that they should be able to recite and know from that. It's posted in all of our areas, public areas of our school. So all of our classrooms have a poster of this. Our cafeteria, our lunchroom cafeteria, our collaboration areas, our offices, they're really all over the building just to kind of keep that sense of understanding of what is expected of them as they go throughout the parts of our building. So one thing that we found to be also important, though, is to not assume. So we actually teach what it means to be respectful. So what does it mean to be respectful when you're in the classrooms? What does it mean when you're on the bus, at recess, and all of those things? The way that we've done that is by implementing kind of short lessons, mini lessons for our students, and a behavior rotation model that we do at the beginning of the year. So first week of school, we set up a rotation with all of our grade levels that go through all of these areas and what the expectation is in all of those areas. And then coming back from Christmas break, we kind of give them a little booster and just kind of get that back fresh in their minds of what those expectations are. So now that we've taught those expectations, what's the next step, obviously? So now that we've kind of had that consistent, now we need to acknowledge those positive behaviors and reward those. So how do we do that? We do that through our Valiant Vikes program that we have running right now. So Valiant Vikes, a little bit of history of it came from the secondary building when we opened this. We kind of filtered it down to kind of give that K-12 program going through. At first, it started really with just Spark Days and celebrations. And just kind of what does it mean to be a Vike and how to kind of go through doing the right thing. But what we found is it kind of struggled to find its identity at the elementary school until we got to that tier one approach of PBIS. And so PBIS has really kind of given our Valiant Vikes program here at NLES a purpose. What its purpose is, I'm going to kind of read it to you just from their thing. And it's to support students throughout their K-12 academic careers by rewarding positive behavior, acts of kindness, making good choices, their attendance, and their academic achievement. So that's a lot of things that they're trying to target. So how are they going to do that? So they do that through two kind of components that go through those things that we just talked about. The first one is the Viking dollar. So currently at the elementary school, their Viking dollars are rewarding behavior and rewarding their attendance. We're looking at adding an academic component into that. It'll be based off of their academic growth. So every kid, no matter what their level, would be able to achieve that growth on their own individual level on that. So a component that we are looking to add to that. But then there's also a star dollar concept. So the star dollars are given out by all staff for kids being just good examples of things. Maybe they're working extra hard on a certain day and a teacher wants to reward them. Maybe they are helping somebody in the hallway who dropped their belongings and picking things up. So little things like that, that we're trying to reward kids to do the right thing, is how they earn those star dollars. And then what do we do with those? So those are kind of where the school store has come into fruition this year. So started in March, and we kind of opened it to our students for the first time. So they've had a chance to go through our school store 2 times now, and have really shown some excitement with those items in there. There are items, if you've been in the elementary school, the school store is actually across from our music rooms, in the display case down there. So you can take a look at the items that are down there. It's little things that are small, of just a couple dollars for kids to earn, of pencil top erasers or something special, stickers, bracelets, things like that are small, but for our older kids who kind of don't want those little things, it goes all the way up to hoodies and clothing and some bigger items that they can continue to save their money from year to year and kind of save up for those bigger items. So that's kind of how we are hoping that we're rewarding our kids for kind of doing the right thing and those positive behaviors. What's the early impact that we've seen this year, that we've really seen students that are excited for that school store being there? Positive staff feedback. So something that we've gotten out of staff is that it is becoming a place that they want to be and a place that they feel supported and want to work. So that's definitely a step in the right direction with that. We've also started the notification of parents. The example there of the flyer is something that went home at report card time and just explains to our parents a little bit about our program, of what the Viking dollars are, the school store, and then that middle section there is individualized with the student name and how many dollars they have currently in their account. And then our next steps is to obviously just continue to strengthen the consistency of our PBIS throughout the building. One of our next step is to include our bus drivers in that sense of giving them star dollars that they can hand out for good behavior on their buses, is kind of the next step that we want to get to this year. And then obviously, as we talked about a little bit earlier, moving into next year is just to continue to progress through that tier 1 rollout that we're doing, but also to kind of start gathering some data in order to reflect on what's working, what are some areas that we need to focus on to help identify areas of concern that we need to address, and then obviously getting into the tier 2 and tier 3 development in the coming years in the future. That's kind of where we're at. Questions?
Any questions? I don't have a question, but just a general comment. I just wanted to commend administration for addressing things that we as a board have been going after for 2 or 3 years. Communication and school climate. These were issues that we identified years ago as being points of serious concern to the board, and I just want to commend it. It is really exciting to see concrete programs and plans being put into place, and the results that are going to come about are very exciting. So just wanted to thank you. And off topic a little bit, Mr. Bruce, I just wanted to commend the elementary staff for quick response last month to a medical emergency. I mean, that was incredible, life-saving. So thank you very much. And that speaks a lot about culture in this building. So thank you.
Appreciate you saying that. We had a rough day that day,
Yeah.
but really proud of how everybody reacted that day and had a good result from it. So thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Anything else? All right.
No.
Very good. Then we will move to items for discussion for this evening. We will go through the agenda tonight with the intent of attempting to establish a consent agenda and items for discussion for next week. I would note that we do have, as the board is aware, we do have 3 voting items this evening, 11.1 through 11.3. So we'll first move through items, I guess, what are we looking at here? 5 through 10, and then we'll have our voting items Dr. Messinger.
Yeah, 5.1 will be the minutes from the March 10th meeting for you to approve. Those will be attached. In addition, we will have 6.1, the student activity count and the cash disbursements for you. It is time to select an auditor, 3-year agreement with the current auditor that we're using. Honestly, there's fewer and fewer auditors out there. I think even IU 13 is having some problems with finding one. So they do a pretty good job for us. I think sometimes the report online, I might see next year, Leanne, if we could bring them in. It was a little dry, in my opinion. Not that you can spice those things up, but other than that, I thought they've done a pretty good job for us. And then our annual pass-through funds, which are in our IDA agreements with the IU 13 that just come and then go out the door, basically, to fund for programming. Anything in 6.1 to 6.4 that you'd like to move to discussion?
Just thank you for the comments regarding 6.3. Yeah, I would agree that the presentation we got this year was a little lacking. I think I would like to have them come in if we could. Leanne, are you pretty satisfied with the work that they've been doing for the last 3 years?
Yes, we've had the auditor who presented the last 2 years is who's been on site for us. He comes up once, and I'm sure he would be willing to come in. You know, I believe the contract that I have to read it for sure. We do have to pay travel fees, but
Okay.
like he's not too far away. I believe he's in Delaware, but
Oh,
so
okay.
we could certainly do that and have him come in the evening, and he could present in person, and then you can also ask questions and have a little bit more of a dialogue.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or any desire to move any of those to discussion?
Under
Director
budget,
Blau?
are we having any of our, any of those presentations you do for next week at all? With the new tax rate? And
The budget presentations,
is that
Dr.
next
Messing and I had talked, I plan to do that in May. Prior to that, we'll get you, I'll get you the report that I usually provide to you beforehand.
Okay, I wasn't
Yep.
sure.
And then I'll have the slides and everything in May.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, great. Then we will leave those on consent. There is nothing for instructional, so extracurricular.
Yeah, actually, the first one I was on last month, but it incorrectly stated, the flyer that was attached was an example of this year's flyer. The trip is actually for next year, 2027. It said 2026. So we'll put that on there to reapprove, just to make sure that we have that. And then also our environmental science class that goes to Pickering Beach at Cape Henlopen annually, that is on there for May 30th and May 31st.
Can you speak into the?
Oh, which field trip are we looking at here? I mean, I only see one field trip request. I'm sorry.
They're both under 8.1.
Okay.
The attachments for
Family,
the
okay.
family and computer science were actually on with last month, but the year was incorrect.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll leave that on consent as well, right?
We do have a resignation. I just want to draw attention to Katie. While we are going to miss her, she is not going far, and she will be working with Northern Lebanon students. She is going to be one of the pastry chef at CTC instructor. She actually went through that program as a CTC student and is going back there. They have a resignation. She's going to go back there and take that position. She's really excited, and we are too, for her. So congratulations to her, and she will be finishing out a couple of weeks there with CTC, and then beginning there as the instructor in the fall.
Okay.
We do have 2 mentors. Tammy Mays is a mentor for Jessica Rennick for the remainder of the school year, and also Jen Toman as a mentor for a long-term sub, Rachel England, through the end of the school year. We have 2 sabbaticals for next year, Katie Peters and Carrie Ann Eberly. And then 3 column movements, Katie Shive to Masters plus 30, Andrea Henney to Masters plus 60, and Jensen Gibson to Masters plus 24. And then you might recall, we approved a rate and employees for the summer work crew. The names of the students who will be doing our summer work crew are listed there for you to approve. And then I did mention to the board in an email about a student health concern with very, very specific needs. So we put together a job description for someone who would meet those needs. And once that job description is approved, we will look to hire a person to fill that need for that particular student. Any questions on any of those?
On the last one, Dr. Messinger, is that position that we're required to provide pursuant to, no, to IEP or anything else?
Yes, they have very specific needs that will,
It's
no,
not- Okay.
it's a health concern.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, unless anyone disagrees, we will keep all those on consent as well. Okay, with that said, then we will move to our voting item, and I just need to read the voting. Pardon me, just a second. Okay, notice was given for this meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. The following action requires a voice vote. All votes in favor shall be stated with an aye or yes. All votes opposed shall be stated with a nay or no. Any member abstaining shall state, "I abstain" when prompted. The votes will be recorded in the minutes as a unanimous roll call vote, unless there are any votes in opposition or abstention. If necessary, the president may subsequently call for a roll call vote to be recorded in the minutes. So these are 11.1 through 11.3. Dr. Messinger, any comments?
No comments, just ask that you would approve the student agreements as presented.
Okay, is there a motion to approve items 11.1 through 11.3?
Motion to approve 11.1 through 11.3.
Thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second? Thank you, Director England. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote's also yes, so that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That ends our voting items for this evening, and then information items, Dr. Messinger?
Yeah, nutrition group will actually be here next week to do a little presentation. And then they do have under 12.1 their operating costs and renewal year cost reimbursable contract for you. However, I will put that on again next week and make that document public. But it is listed, incorrectly listed, I think, under administrative attached. But we'll put it on there again for next week. But either way, we're not voting on that. They're just presenting you the numbers. And they will be here next week to talk. And then additional informational item, just I mentioned it in an exec session, but the senior citizen luncheon is tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the high school. So if anybody out there is listening, or you know anyone that would like to come to that, they are welcome still.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any questions? Anything else? Okay, with consent, then this committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.